Okay, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all good. And I hope you can all hear me. Some of you might have seen in Discord. I'm going to keep this one short because we went to the dentist today, had a filling put in, but my jaw and cheek is absolutely killing me. So I'm finding it quite difficult to talk, but I am going to try and soldier on. Try and I don't necessarily mean put people's minds at ease, but just let you know where I think things are. So if I kind of brush over what I was really wanting to talk about, I apologize. But I'm going to try and keep this to sort of 45 minutes. Hopefully go from there. New mic. Okay, so the old mic's gone. I've just gone with a nice simple USB connecting mic rather than one through the XLR mixer, which seemed to just always cause me issues. So hopefully the sound's a lot better. Looks like it is in the chat. So we will just crack straight on. Okay, let's have a look at where things are right now. So we got BTC, which is, I mean, let's face it, it is right on the range, okay? So let's just blow this one up, and we will go into this in a lot more detail almost immediately after I finish looking at it here. But that level of sub 60,000, just under 60,000, is kind of where we're at the moment. Now, what I would say is anyone that hasn't done anything and you're feeling nervous and wanting to move, I would personally just wait. The reason I would wait is fairly simple. Is we've been at this level 3 times before, okay? And each time it's been aggressively bought up. May not have lasted, but we have seen a big bounce from here. And whilst this may not be the final time we see this, given that we are so close to that level, actually it might just be, let's just wait and see how it reacts in and around there. If we see a close below it, we might want to take some action. If we see a close above it, we want to take other action. So, definitely just now is the time for, you should have made your move. Let's just have a look. It's an incredibly important level, 60,000. We've had a look at it plenty of times before, and we're going to go into it in a lot more detail a bit later on. We look at the rest of the market. I've actually thrown up total 3. So altcoins. And again, very critical level where we're at the moment. Been here before, ranged here for about the last 4 weeks, which coincides with pretty much 4 weeks of drops on Bitcoin. So we know the altcoin market has been suffering, and here it is. And that sort of $600 billion level is an important level for us. And to be honest with you, you can go into total 2, looks exactly the same. It's just at 975. And you can even actually have a look at the total market cap, which is pretty much carbon copy of what Bitcoin's looking like at the moment. So everything right now is on the precipice. It's right on the knife edge of potentially heading towards some lows, which, to be fair, we have talked about in the past. And today, rather than last week us focused on some bullish targets, I want to try and have a bit of a sentiment towards potentially, some lower targets. I think that's the word I'm looking for there. Ethereum is, again, on that level there. We'll cover that in more detail. And then we've got BitTensor. BitTensor is the big one for us. A lot of us, this is a significant part of our portfolio, and we have seen this bleed. And actually, of all the alts, certainly today, what am I on the 12 hour here? This one has fallen one of the hardest, and it's continued to fall since that Binance listing, which it's a classic kind of buy the rumor, sell the news, which also then happened to coincide with what's going on with the rest of the crypto market, and as we'll explore in a moment's time, potentially what's going on with the rest of the traditional markets as well. So a bit of a nervy time at the moment. Yep, we've all seen this as well. There is some form of TA, which I will draw a lot neater later on, but you can kind of see that we are in some sort of falling channel. Typically what happens with that, yep, we bounce here and we see some sort of reaction. And that is what I would like to see. It's not saying what I would expect to see, because ultimately I think BTC is still going to drive the direction of the market. So regardless of some TA on individual altcoins, I think whatever BTC do will send the majority of the market the same direction. Doesn't mean it'll be for all cases, and maybe BitTensor is the one that does different. We'll go through a lot more altcoins a little bit later on. If you do have any questions, feel free to stick them into the chat. I'll try and tackle them as best as I can. But yeah, so we normally go for the news. I'm not going to read through the news, but there is some big news events and big events that are happening this week, which I do think are worth talking about. First and foremost, CZ, he is actually in court today. So if you remember back in October, he pleaded guilty. I can't remember to what charge it was at the moment, but he's in court in Seattle. Now, he's already agreed to pay a $50 million fine. But the prosecutors want to send him behind bars for 3 years. Now, whichever one he did commit, and I'll try and zip down as we're having a look at it. I can't see it quick enough. They can go up to 10 years in prison, but I think realistically people were looking at around about 18 months. But as I said, the prosecutor is hoping for 3 years behind bar. As you can imagine, his defense is saying, we'll pay a £50 million fine personally from him. We don't want any prison time. So that's going to happen. I don't know if it's today or tomorrow, and it shouldn't be a big event for crypto. But knowing how sensitive crypto is, he is the former founder of Binance. Oh, so he's the founder of Binance, but he's the former CEO. He shouldn't have anything to do with it now. He's a private citizen. But we could see that actually news like that could have a negative impact if it is overly, I don't want to say harsh, but if it is on the higher spectrum of sentencing. So something to keep in mind for stock markets. Tomorrow is FOMC. Now, for those of you that have watched this for the last 18, 24 months, you'll know FOMC's pretty big deal. I don't really want to go into any detail about what it is or, what's going to happen. But just to say that, yes, it's an incredibly volatile day to trade. That's what I think I'm trying to get at. We will get whatever the new funding rate is likely to be at 7 p.m. UK time. Now, it's a 99.5% chance that it is going to remain a freeze. And as a matter of fact, the whole point of the article that I'm not going to bother going through now actually is suggesting that, inflation is starting to creep back in, or is continuing to creep back in. So we are going to have these higher interest rates for longer. Sentiment seems to suggest that we may not even get a rate cut this year. And I think that news, whilst it's kind of been known for a few weeks, because we have had other things that have come through, CPIs and all of the likes, now that we get close to FOMC, I think the market is really starting to price that in. And certainly with the stock markets and some of the others, we are seeing particularly nosedives in those as well. So what I always find is important is, the federal fund rate will come out at 7 o'clock, and then you get a press release. And that press release will basically say whatever it says. But then actually at 7:30, we get the press conference. And that's the big thing for me, because it's going to be Chairman Powell's time to rabbit on about whatever it is. And yep, he'll say that they're still determined to hit the 2% inflation level. Fair enough. But we're at 5.5. So it's how hawkish is he going to be? Is he actually going to give it in clear English that we are staying at higher rates? Is he going to skirt around it? And that is what will either spook or rally the markets. So that 7:30 press conference lasts for about 45 minutes. I always find is probably the most important part of the day. Just bear that one in mind. If you are trading, it is a particularly volatile time. In terms of Avenger questions, I only got one, and it kind of led to the entire point of today's conversation. It says, are you worried about the continued drops in crypto at the moment? Sorry, it's from Paul. Can you highlight any key areas, areas or indicators you would look for, which, if hit, would lead you to exit the market? Okay, Paul, I think what I'm going to speak about for the next 20 minutes is probably going to cover all of that. And, that title for the thumbnail, for me personally, was a bit tongue-in-cheek. What if Bitcoin is done? Personally, I do not believe Bitcoin is done, and I'll explain why. But I don't think it's right that we just categorically just write it off, because actually, should we have a look? Or should we take times like this in the market, when the market is in a downturn, to just reevaluate our convictions of why we think that Bitcoin is going to surpass 73,000 at some stage during this bull run? So again, we will have a look at a lot of different levels. But for me, despite the pullback, despite the change in the markets, fundamentals of why I believe in Bitcoin, why I think Bitcoin will do well across fiat, hasn't changed. So in my mind, Bitcoin's either going to zero, which I believe there is absolutely no chance of it happening, or it will be higher than 74,000 at some stage in the next 18 months. Complete politician's answer there. I appreciate. And so I'm not worried. I don't believe that Bitcoin is done. And I actually don't think that this pullback is, one, particularly that bad compared to previous pullbacks, and two, necessarily a bad thing. And I think we kind of harked on about that for the last month or two, that we've had such a meteoric rise with the commencement of the Bitcoin spot ETFs in the US, that actually we've been needing that pullback. And this pullback may have lasted longer than we would have wanted, but I dare say it hasn't gone deeper, certainly on BTC, than perhaps we have seen in the past. And so I still see that there is some levels of optimism we'll talk about the negatives, and then I'll try and move on to where some of the positives sit as well. So I'm not sure why I've gone onto that one. We'll stay on this chart here. I'm on the weekly. Let's just drop back onto the daily. So we've seen this as the first chart that I showed you, but now we've just got a load of indicators on there. You know what these are. We've got things like vector candles and everything else. But we've got the EMAs. So the blue is the 10, the red is the 20, the dark blue is the 50, and then we've got the 200, which is the yellow down at the bottom. Remember, currently we are on the daily. So that level we've been talking about, if you really want to be pedantic about the level and you want an exact figure, I would say you are looking at 59,643. For me, that is the level that we are looking at, and we have previously bounced quite hard off that level on 3 previous occasions. Now, we haven't got there yet today, but it is a pretty big candle. And what you can actually see is we did rally up to the 20 and the 50 EMA today, and then we rejected off that, and then everything happened. When we go down the hourly, you'll actually see that this was almost a mini buy the news, buy the rumors, sell the news event in the terms of the Hong Kong ETFs. So we bought some Bitcoin into this. The ETFs opened at 2 o'clock UK time, I think it was, and then the market fell away. And we'll talk about that in a moment's time. But that sort of rally up, but hit that level back on the daily at the beginning of the day, and then from there, all we've seen is it commence all the way back down. We have lost the 50 EMA cloud as well on the daily, and obviously this is not a particularly great place for us to have a daily close. What I'd prefer to see is us actually hit off that line or see some sort of buying pressure so we can have some form of wick to the south of the body, just to give us some hope. If at the moment, if this is how it closes, I think we're going to see this pattern roll over, and we will look at some other targets in a moment. Now, in terms of things like market makers, we haven't really discussed market makers for some time, and to be honest with you, I don't think there's been a particularly clear pattern that's helped, particularly when you're on the higher time frames, because we're trying to find somewhere in which it could have started and then give us all of those rises and steps. And whether or not we drop it down to the lower time frames, maybe the 4 or the 8 hour, and we kind of find some sort of bottoming pattern here. When you go on the 12, that is a fairly clear W pattern, but we have sort of a move up, a retest. Doesn't quite go as far as I'd like. Oops, I've gone from the wrong level here. That's why. Sorry, let's start all that again. Maybe I was at the right level. I think this was the move up, retest. I think that was it. Move up, retest, move up. And we've got this here, and then we've got some form of topping pattern in and around here. I'm just going to clear it and move up to it so we can see it a little bit better, because that's the way I want to focus at the moment. There is some form of topping pattern. Topping patterns typically M formations, and now we're looking at whether or not we're going to see some drops. And it's kind of hard to understand where this topping pattern is, because this obviously is the first. Let me change the color. Apologies there. Let's make it yellow. So this is obviously the first peak. Comes into it, and then for me, I'm not classing this as the peak. I think it's going to be a weird M formation, so just bear with me. It's here, and this is it. Okay, that's the M formation I'm sort of seeing. Some form of topping pattern. Now I know there's 1, 2, 3. There is a triple top there as well. That's a topping pattern too. But from a point of view of just the market makers, I'm looking for M's and W's. So potentially we've got some form of M formation there, and then we're looking at whether or not we're in the drops. And to me, we've dropped down. We've lost the 50. We've come back up, and then we've had a sharp turnaround. Now on the daily, yet we don't have a stopping vector candle or anything like that. But this is a daily candle. But we've had that pull back up, and then we're coming back down. And the question in my mind is that a long enough period for this to have been a drop one? Have we now seen D1 and we're in some form right now of D2? And if that's the case, then it's conceivable, can't get my English out right now, that we will be heading to prices at least within the 50,000s. Because remember, if we are working market makers, we're going to see, M formation. We're going to see M formation, down 1, down 2, down 3. Yeah, so we've got the M up there, drop 1, drop 2, drop 3, into a W, and then the pattern goes off that way, okay? Well, we've only dropped one, maybe into drop two. So at some stage, we're going to find a bottom, a period for consolidation, and then a further move back down. Now, I might have over-exaggerated where those lines are going, and that's fair enough. But that's kind of where I see the pattern at the moment. It's still not the best. It's still not the cleanest, because I'm sure those that are more experienced within this will be able to tell me that there is some form of finding 3 rises within the daily. Because, I mean, if you take it all the way back, you know, we could try and do what we did before and take it back to last, you know, beginning of 23, and maybe take some here, but that's a long rise 3. So we'll leave that at that. Let's just accept that it's messy. It has been messy. It's been hard to follow, but we're trying to now make some sense of the noise. And that's kind of where I'm seeing things are at the moment. It is a strong move down. We have actually gone and lost 60,000 at the moment. Still not hit that 59,640 and 34, but we're getting closer. Right, let's just clear all of the noise off, and then let's have a look. So what levels am I actually interested in? You know, I'm going to throw a fib up later on, but before that, what I'm really looking for right now, what I'm interested in are these. So again, I don't really want to go into vector candles. I've covered those enough. If you don't know what they are, seek me out afterwards, and I'll point you in a good direction of where to learn about those. But we've got 3 vector candles here, green vector candles. Okay, and at the moment, they still have been unclaimed. That's why we have these green boxes here. And so they are potential targets, and we're already starting to attack those at the moment. Now, when you zoom in on these, if you're not familiar with the indicator, there's a little dotted line halfway through. That's the 50% line of each of the vector candles that's remaining. And they're, to me, ideal center points, shall we say, because the 50% lines are potential targets that we can look at. So if we were to use those very crudely, and we were to think that these greens may be recovered, then you'd be looking at around about 59,000, about 56,000, and probably about 53,000. They would be the 3 immediate levels just based off that I'd be wanting to have a look at. But why am I so sure or convinced that these may be targeted? And I'm going to drop it down onto a lower time frame just to kind of emphasize the points. If we go onto the hourly, and this is just because we'll have a lot more of them to have a look at. But you can do this. You can get this indicator up there and you can go and back test this. But 9 times out of 10, if you see a green or a red candle, you can go left or right about 10 candles and they'll be the opposite of that candle you've seen. They are always, whatever print is always recovered. And remember, this is sort of trapped liquidities, is trapped volume. Okay, so this is market makers getting retail excited. That's basically what it is, an illustration of that. And then they come and take that back. So we have a look. We'll start left to right. So we've got a red. The green was right next to it. That was an easy one. Same with this one. The green and the red covered each other very clear. We had a red here. No, that one kind of missed it. But look, we had the green one there. Perfect. We've gone the other way. You could have had the reds and the greens. We've got this red here. We've got the blue and the purple, which are there. Sort of picking that one up. We go up here. We've got this block of red. Not really too much. There's a little bit here. But actually, this green candle takes out that red. And you can just repeat that. You know, there's a green and a red. Red here for these greens. And it just continues. Red and green. Now, granted, it doesn't always happen, which is why you have zones at the top. You know, all these red ones are unclaimed vectors and all these green ones are unclaimed green vector candles. So it doesn't always happen, but typically it does. And I dare say that, you know, given the speed that this one fell from 63,000 to 61,800, and it set its own vector at some stage, and it may not be immediate. This is the hourly chart. We will probably see that get reclaimed either fully or partially, certainly up to the 50% at some time. And so that's why we have a look at vector candles. That's why we monitor. Now going back onto the daily, that's why these were of interest to me. Now actually, I got to tell you, and I got to be honest, that these green vector candles have a counterpart back in 2021. So you could argue prior to those forming on the way up after the ETFs, there was these group of red vector candles from 50,000 up to 60,000, and they stayed there for 2 and a bit years until we zoom long enough away, they were cleared by this. Okay, so you could argue that that has already been done. It's been sorted, and I accept that. However, look at the steepness of these vector candles. Look how fast they've gone up and climbed, right? shows me that this is an area of interest. And so given that, I'm keep counting these as fresh ones, even though they reclaimed the previous ones. And that just suggests to me that actually we may have some room to move down there. Now, before we throw the Fibonacci's on to have a look at some other levels, just bear in mind, we lose 60k. There isn't much support from price action, certainly locally recently, until the lower 50,000s, 52,000 is where we see a little bit of action in and around there. So again, the speed at which that climbed up is going to work negatively in our favor. Negative in our favor? That's not right. It's going to work against us on the way back down. And so again, we can't hold the level of 59,634. That's what it was, wasn't it? Then yeah, we may have some sharp move back down. And again, we're below the 20, we're below the 10, we're below the 50. We've lost the cloud. The 200 at the moment is sat around about 52,000. There's a potential that maybe that might give us a little bit of the bounce. Okay, time's waiting. Let's throw a fib on. With all of that, what else can we determine from it? So we were flirting on the 236 for the last few days. We lost it today, finally, actually closing. Well, unless we have a miracle buyback, we're likely to close below it. And we're heading now down to potentially the 382. And I keep on using that word because we've had such a strong reaction at that sub 60k level. I think it's only fair that we give it a bit of a chance there. But yeah, that 58,000. So I'd be reclaiming pretty much this entire vector candle. Would go past the 59 that we talked about and there 38. Then if we start thinking about, okay, by the time this moves down to 0.5, potentially we could get there. 200 might have moved across at the same time, around about 54,000. That could certainly be an area of interest. And then the 618, the golden ratio itself, smack bang on 50k, right at the bottom of this level here. And I think that's kind of been what we talked about a few weeks ago now, our doomsday level, as in we lose that level, and I think we really are in trouble. Until we lose that level, as painful as it may be, I think this is just part and parcel of some potential retest sets. So there's certainly the levels that I'm looking at, and they're certainly where it's going. Now, why has Bitcoin kind of reacted in the way that it has? Well, yeah, okay, we briefly touched on the Hong Kong ETFs. And the Hong Kong ETFs, just to give you, a bit of context, the United States has 3,457 products with assets worth 9 trillion listed on 3 exchanges. Okay? Get down to it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? It's here somewhere. Here we go. On the other hand, the size of Hong Kong's ETF market is estimated to be about 50 billion. Now, billion and trillion, I know it sounds like they're similar, but they ain't. Okay, we're talking about 180 times difference in size of markets here. So I don't, this was before the ETFs even launched. This article came out, maybe just saying, look, I think we need to brace ourselves for where this may take us. And I think they're right to say that. Then what we see is actually on its first day of trading, we only saw $12 million worth. And that's a split between 9 million for BTC and 3 million for Ethereum. Now, I'm not trying to write that off. It's day one. There are holidays in Asia, might not specifically be Hong Kong, so I may have to double check on that. So maybe that had a bit of an impact to it, but it was certainly a slow start. But I don't think that's necessarily why BTC is struggling. As a matter of fact, one of the things we did talk about, during the February and March rallies with the ETF was this is a bullish scenario as long as the ETFs continue to buy. And that's the key thing. Because Grayscale is still selling. They're still dumping it. And so if we're not having ETFs buying that up, we're putting a lot of extra Bitcoin back onto the markets. And actually, when you look, I don't know if you can see it because it's in black. Hopefully you can make it out. Try and zoom in a little bit. So I'm looking over here, the flows, ETF net flows. It's in black, not the best. Trying to see if I can change the color of it. Okay. I'm going to blind you with the whiteness, but at least you can see it. And look, actually, for the last 4 weeks, we generally actually had negative outflows for the last 4 weeks. And in fact, in the last 4 days, nobody has really been interested in buying Bitcoin. And it's basically been BlackRock. BlackRock have turned off the tap for the last 4 days. They haven't made a purchase in the last 4 days. So with all of the amount of Grayscale selling and nobody there to buy it up, of course, that's going to lead to a bit of a selling pressure there. And again, we can have a look in here, and we can have a look, Grayscale today. Let's have a look. They sent 1,700 Coinbase today. So, and what? One ETF bought 29 Bitcoin. That all we get out of this. Now, Bitwise bought a few as well. So, okay, so we've had 1,700 go today. So remember, this only records up to yesterday. So I'm just giving you what today's was. So we've had approximately 130, 140 Bitcoin bought, but 1,700 potentially sent. So we're not talking about a huge upshift there. So that's the key, that huge buying pressure. We don't have retail yet. So that huge buying pressure we were talking about that was bullish, we were warning, if they ever turn off the tap, we actually may see a bit of a downfall. Well, the tap has turned off. Coincide that with hawkish remarks coming out of the Fed, increase duration of high interest rates, inflation starting to creep back in. There's loads of other data that came out with sort of unemployment and consumer sentiment and all that kind of stuff. It's not particularly a strong position to be in. Now, generally, I do believe that over the long run, that's going to help Bitcoin, So Wall Street may be thinking, there's an opportunity here. I now have a mechanism, a vehicle, an ETF for Bitcoin in which I might be able to hedge against the problems that the US dollar is inevitably going to fall into, and also the stock markets are having. But as an immediate kind of reaction, unfortunately, Bitcoin and the crypto market are still pretty much lockstep with the stock markets, which, we just kind of have to plug along with and deal with. Now, I don't know if this is going to cheer you up or not, but a couple of things here. This is only a 20% drop, okay? Only a 20% drop. It feels bad because it's $15,000, but it's only a 20% drop. Look at this one. Earlier on this year, 21%. So what we're experiencing right now wasn't even what we experienced earlier on this year, okay, from the ETF. I think that was that the fake announcement of the ETF? Or was it the actual announcement, 8th of Jan? They did it, remember, they did it the day before, fake news, then it came out the day after. Anyway, so that's a 21.5% drop. We go back into last year. 21.5% drop. So we've experienced these. We've experienced worse than these. Here, 20%. Here, 22%. So actually, this is the fifth decent drop in crypto this bull run. The previous four, if you've been in RT for that long, we've weathered further storms than that. Just hasn't felt as bad either because one, we're on the sideline, or two, the actual dollar value falls is not quite as bad. But percentage wise, that's kind of where we're sitting. So, this isn't as bad as it could be. And unfortunately, that does mean that we do have some room to work ourselves down here and maybe, unfortunately, feel a bit more of a pinch. But what is interesting is that, okay, this is on the weekly now. Let's get rid of all of these. And I checked this beforehand. So I accept we've got 5 days until this weekly candle closes. But this is the fifth red weekly candle in a row. I've gone back, and in a bull market, I can't find a single occurrence of where we've had 5 red weekly candles in a row. Not one. I won't bore you with them all. But what's not worse still, but in a bear market, I think there's certainly on this chart that I'm using, the Bitstamp, there's only 2 occurrences of more or 5 or more red candles in a row. And that is here, which was April, May of 22. So we know what happened on there. We obviously had Terra Luna, and then we were working our way up to Celsius. And then the other one, bear with me because I'm going to try and find it now. I knew I should have marked it ahead of time. I mean, not even the COVID crash, because there's a green one in the middle there. It's over here somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 because that's green. 1, 2, 3. That's a green. Nope. Okay, it's somewhere. But there are 2 occurrences in bear markets in which that has happened. And so this is kind of unprecedented for Bitcoin to have such a long period of red candles. Now, technically, we've only got 4 that have actually closed. I accept that. And a lot can happen in Bitcoin. We can certainly recover $4,000. Hell, we've lost $4,000 today. So we can certainly recover that in the next 5 days. The point I'm trying to make is we are falling. We are resetting most indicators at the moment. and we're getting towards that oversold territory on a lot of them, or fear territories, whatever you want to deem it as. And that's going to ultimately lead to some sort of, reaction. I don't want to say it's going to lead to a rally, because it might just be a fake rally. We may not get a sustain. We may just have one green weekly candle and further falling. I'm not trying to say because we've had 5, it's a guaranteed slam dunk we're going up and it's 83k and off to the races. No, but we have had 5 weeks in a row, 5 weeks. But in those 5 weeks, what amazes me is we're still at 67 on the fear and greed index, which I just can't quite fathom that we haven't reset this any better. This is just, either this is broken and it's not working so well, or we are just absolute warriors. We've been through it all and nothing seems to shake us anymore. But I do think that this sort of adds fuel to the narrative that, we may in the next few weeks and the previous few weeks have had a tough time and our portfolios may look particularly bad. But most people who are in the market at the moment know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The grass will be greener once we get out of it, and we're going to climb. And so we're not getting shaken as badly as I would have thought we would have done. Now, CoinMarketCap actually has us at 58, but that's been hovering around 58 and 60 for a fair few days as well. So they're not moving much, although they are different figures. And just in case you were wondering, and I'll refresh it just so we know for certain. Well, if we have a look at the 7-day reds, okay? BitTensor was pretty bad at 25%, but it's not the worst, and there's a lot of them out there, So what I would say from a sentiment point of view is whatever got you into whichever project you like, whatever got your interest within it, it's not doing bad because it's a crap project. Every project is doing bad. The market is doing bad. It's got nothing, highly likely it's got nothing to do with how your project is performing, developing, or whatever. Wow, I'm really struggling today. So don't let that just, put you off in necessarily thinking. It's a BitTensor, for example, one of the worst that's fallen over the last 7 days, 25%. It's pretty big fall there. And, a lot of us would have been buying at higher levels than where we currently sit. But ultimately, ask yourself, has anything necessarily changed to put you off BitTensor? Has anything necessarily changed to make you think that BitTensor isn't going to do well? Do we now believe that AI narratives are not going to be one of the main memeability sectors for this bull run? And if most of those answers are what they were 4 or 5 weeks ago, then yeah, just chill out. As painful as it's going to be, if you don't have any money left to put in and buy these lows, just ride it out. If you see an opportunity, and we'll talk about opportunities to potentially do an exit and a sidestep, although I do stress that they are quite risky in bull markets, then yeah, okay, fair enough. But if you just have to sit on your hands now, don't worry about it. If you still have the conviction to believe that we are in a bull market and we are going to be returning to some greens later on, then BitTensor is still performing well. It's still a good project, and until that's proven otherwise, then you just got to ride it out, unfortunately. And this is kind of how I felt during some of the stages in 2023. I'd obviously started buying in 22, end off because I thought like it was good, and it was, but there were times where things were going lower, but thankfully I had munition on the side to keep buying lows, and ultimately got myself a decent position. And that will be what this will feel like in 6 months' time. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but that is where it will feel. That is where you will be. You'll be, okay, that was difficult, but now I've forgot it, because I'm back over 1,000 or whatever it's going to be, and you're just counting your money coming through. So yeah, just don't be put off just because one of your projects is suffering and is not looking too good. And we talk about crypto fear and greed. What is interesting is the stock market fear and greed. That is in fear. Okay, they have adapted to where they feel they're going. As I say, that could just be because the markets are pricing in potentially hawkish news tomorrow. And again, if Jerome Powell comes out and actually is particularly dovish, and I don't know why he would be, but if he is particularly positive with what he's going to say, or even if he's negative, but he gives right, I know it's going to be, we're going to hold high interest rates over the summer, and then when we get back in September, we're dropping them. That's actually good news, because at least we've got something to work on. It's the unknown, and that is what causes volatility in the market. Whether it's good or bad, that's that. As long as it's known, then at least the markets can do something about it. So yeah, tomorrow will be interesting. I think look, there's earnings seasons galore as well coming out. So last week we had quite a few. This week, I mean, I don't know if they've been yet, but we've had Microsoft, Amazon, and MicroStrategy was last week. There's loads of big ones that are popping out. Meta, I think, is another. Maybe Google. What was Google last week? But so they're going to also dictate, or their analysis of how they've done and performed over the last 3 months are certainly going to drive the market in one direction or another. So yeah, just bear that in mind. I don't think many of us are day trading at the moment, but if you are, this is a busy week, and you need to start thinking about a lot of that stuff coming around. Now, to go back to Paul's question about, is there anything, levels or indicators that would, make me reevaluate where we are in the market? I'm just going to base this on Bitcoin at the moment. But for me, I mean, this is on the weekly chart, so we can kind of see where we were with the previous bear market. I mean, and look, the dotted red line represents where the price is at the moment. I don't even need to draw the circle, but I'm going to. Just look at that support there. Yeah, even a little bit of support and resistance there, So we are on previous levels, and we don't have much to go on because we're pretty close to all-time highs. So that's all we've got, but it stood strong for a good period of time there. My only concern is if we lose it and we go down to 50, and then again, it's another strong level at 50. It's about as straight a line as I can get it freehand. So again, not too bad. Now we start to lose that one, and I am concerned. But technically, as long as we stayed above 45,000, we could dip down and react, and we'd still be in this, uptrend of some form or another. And so, as painful as that may be down to 45, losing 45 is when I'm going to be concerned. Now, in terms of portfolio and where I am, I'll show you the portfolios later on. How painful is it going to be if we get down to 45? Alts are going to bleed, of course they are. But I've been picking up Bitcoin as well again now. And I just had a look on Delta beforehand. And I bought Bitcoin in the last couple of months, or last month or so, 65, 63, and 61,000. But even with all of that, my average buying is still 34,000. So, yes, it'd be difficult if we got down to 45. But if we lost that 45, 40 level, I would have to consider about what the next move would be, and I'd get away and pretty much break even, and then I just have to reset, and I'd be watching it like a hawk to see what the best thing was. But until then, there's nothing that's necessarily putting me off. And why should it? The halving has happened. I think some people think that it's like a tap. The halving happens and suddenly price explodes up. No, typically that's not what happens. Halvings happen, then we have a period of consolidation, and then we move. Halvings happen, we have a period of consolidation. Halvings happen, it's what, in around here, period of consolidation, and then we move. Similarly with this one, halving happens, period of consolidation, and then we move. So this is just a time now for consolidation. If you've got an opportunity to buy stuff, then absolutely go for it. And just to hammer that point home again about your alts, don't look at it as my alts are bleeding. Look at it as, damn it, 4 weeks ago when it was, render was at $13, I would have given anything to buy back in at 7. It's there now. So don't be afraid to be buying on red candles. You know what? That's what market makers do. They buy the red candles because it's their buy orders they're getting filled that's driving the price towards those buy orders. They're buying them. It's the big green ones they're selling on. So be a market maker. Don't be afraid to buy on big red candles. Set yourself some levels, and I'll talk about some levels of the altcoins that I'm looking at, particularly at Tau, a little bit later on. Now, in terms of my portfolio, it's where it currently sits at the moment. I'll zoom in. So business side is as per usual, it's still 100% BTC. And the personal side, relatively the same, but for the astute in you, you'll know the DOT's dropped, the BTC's increased, and the USDT has increased. I actually sold some DOT yesterday. I managed to get 50% of it unstaked, so I went through the 28 days, and then I just sold all of my staking rewards. So whatever I've accumulated over the last 18 months, I sold, and a little bit more. And I've just put that to one side, and I will use that. I mean, DOT's already dropped 60 cents since I sold. I've got some targets in my mind of where I want to start buying that back in. I'm just going to buy back into DOT. That was just to a sidestep. I had the opportunity because Polkadot was available for me to sell. I just felt like the markets was going to re-attack that 60k level. So it seemed like a smart move. Tau and Near, nothing's changed in terms of what I own within it. It's just Tau's fallen harder, so Near stayed pretty good. BTC has gone up because I did buy a little bit of BTC. And I'm going to continue to just build that pot up. And then I've got some ammunition on the sideline, 11% USDT. I don't think that's right, you know. Anyway, it says 11%, so it must be. I thought it was a tiny little bit more. But anyway, 11% USDT. And I will be looking to purchase, I'm not sure what yet, but certainly some Tau. We know there's a little bit of dot there. Maybe Near and Render if they get small, low enough. And then BTC I will continue to buy. So that's where we are with the portfolio. And I've realized I've not looked at any of the questions. So apologies there, or comments. Stuart, yep, just riding out the FUD. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily FUD, I don't think. It's absolutely happening, but I'm riding it out. If I see an opportunity, I might take it. But like with DOT, I had an opportunity to sell 50%. I ain't risking that because the chance of this reversing and going up is a lot higher than it would be in a bear market. So I'm just taking sensible plays of something that I would have been happy sitting on. And look, if I only end up getting an extra 100 or 200 DOT out of it, so be it. You know, it's worth the risk in my mind. Tim's put CZ get 4 months. Has he got 4 months? Is that an actual statement, or is that just what you think he'll get? I'll let you get back to me on that one, Tim. Bijan's put, hey there, Bijan. Is Simon taking a risk holding into rate cuts, considering how traditionally stock markets top not to 2 months after rate cuts? Yeah, but I mean, so you know, he may well be. In terms of a lot of those rate cuts that we've seen predate crypto. And I don't want to undermine what I just said about we're in lockstep with the stock markets at the moment. So, but probably not going to have rate cuts and significant rate cuts. You know, if Chairman Powell is taking it down 25 basis points every quarter, every 3 months, that's not really a rate cut. That's just a real shallowing off. Now, we would have high interest rates for much longer, obviously. I'm talking about if he's knocking off, I don't know, 500, 750 points in one meeting. That's when I feel like the rate cut actually is. And yeah, we may well see a bit of a pinch to that. And I'm still not saying that we aren't in a left-leaning transition. I think there's multiple factors. I do think pauses like this help us towards the right-leaning. And I like that, but until we actually pass the left leaning, I'm not ruling it out, and I'm planning for a right leaning as in Q4 2025. But I'll be trigger ready. You know, a lot of my staking cryptos will be moved off long staking periods, or by next 6 months, all of my DOT will be off a 28-day unstaking period. It will be in a instant staking area. Same with most of the other ones. So I could be very quick to adapt to whatever was happening. Every crypto project is just trending the S&P and the Russell too. Yeah, and I think you've put a few charts in Discord, which kind of echoes that. And at the moment, there's just not really too much sentiment about it. Someone said to me, I haven't looked, let's have a look. Someone mentioned that even gold and silver were struggling a bit today. So we have a look at the traditional. I mean, the Dixie's going strong, which not really what we want to see, but perhaps not unusual in terms of where we currently sit with the stock markets. Yeah, S&P down today, NASDAQ down today. What did I want to see? Is gold. Yeah. I mean, since you think gold made its high about a month ago, and it's just done what Bitcoin's done. It's had a nice little fall. Same with silver. Very good fall there. Oil's down as well. We go for all of these. Crypto firms are having a bit of a tough time with it as well, but that's, I suppose, to be expected. Matter of fact, most things are. Meta's at least trading water. And Tesla, I mean, we talked about Tesla last week, didn't we? And whoever did, if they did buy at 138, they had a good week. I think there was some announcement in China. I know that Elon was over there. And yeah, we've gone from 140 to basically 200 in the space of a week, which, yeah, pretty impressive. But it looks bad because it says it's 5% down today, but that's just today. That's why it's always worth having a look at the charts. Fact according to Twitter. Okay. Interesting. I'll check that one out afterwards. As Craig said, we can still move to 45k and look positive. I agree with that one. And then I'm always hesitant to click on links, but let's see what happens. Are you sure you want to leave YouTube? No, I don't. Okay, I can't click on what that link is, but thank you. Okay, just one final thing, which I forgot to talk about with Bitcoin. I think it's worth talking about. Where's this one here? Here we go. So this is the monthly chart. Now, normally I update at the beginning of the month. Today is the last day of the month. Don't forget that one. So be interesting to see. I mean, I don't really like this candle at the moment. It's an engulfing candle, which is not the best. It's not what you want to see. So, you know, please try and get at least above 61,200 and bring that one up. But that being said, take it back onto the weekly. Let's just get rid of the drawings for now. Bit easier to see. Let's get rid of so the blue's the 50. We'll get rid of that. So on the weekly, this is the 20 EMA, and I saw this on Twitter. Someone talking about it, and it's, you know, it's an interesting point. We haven't hit the 20 EMA, but potentially there's an opportunity for a retest. It's around about 56,000. So we talked about 56 being a level. It's a center of a vector candle recovery. So certainly one to have a look at. But have a look at how Bitcoin's reacted to the 20 EMA before. So bull market 2019 dips below it, comes back up. We had a black swan event, dip below it again. So it's triple dipped, or two dips if you want, comes back through, retests it, off to the races. Well, we're in the bull market, dip below, two dips below, retests off it, maybe another retest off it, and we continue up to the races. You know, maybe that's where we've just got to get a reset now. You know, one could mean anything. Let's go back into 2016, bull market again. So we've had the leading into the halving, dips below, comes back up, retesting the 20, retesting the 20, constantly retesting that 20 on the weekly as we parabolically climb up. So certainly precedent for that to happen. I don't know if this one's going to go back far enough. It kind of does. 2012. So we dip below it pre the halving, we come back up, we retest it, and then it just stays with it all the way through that peak at least. Okay, dips below here ever so slightly, and then up it goes. But it's 20 on the weekly is a pretty interesting level, and we do go below it, absolutely. But more often than not in a bull market, we actually react from it. So that could be a level to look at as well if we do. And it does look like we're not going to hold this 60k at the moment. I mean, previously, when we've had those levels, we've hit them and bounced, you know? Whereas right now, we're sort of, I don't know. I mean, we are kind of staying there. These are bounces. Comes down, bounces. There's the other one. Comes down, bounces. We don't hover around. Whereas right now, we're meandering at that 60k level. It kind of feels that, you know, these buy orders are getting filled. Okay, let's quickly have a look at some other ones, and then we'll wrap it up because the painkillers are starting to wear off. But Paula, hopefully that answers your question. Okay, we've done that. Tau, we're on the weekly. I mean, Tau on the weekly doesn't look great, I'll be honest. Because if I throw a fib up, we're right now on the 236, okay? That 37. We lose that though on the weekly. We start to get into those golden levels, 250. Oof, that one's going to sting if we went down to there. But let's just put it on the daily. Let's see if there's anything else that might save us from that level. Because, yeah, I don't want to see that. Right, so for me, I've been talking about this 360 level, which we're there or thereabouts. So that's just based off the high of this peak there. But the main chunk of it really is in and around this level. So unfortunately, that is, I mean, take your pick, 320 down to 250. Let's just take the middle of that and say it's 280. It's not exactly looking good. So we need some sort of recovery there. Now, previously, I mentioned this, or I put it in Discord. This run up, we saw like a 50% retracement, and then it bounced. And what we've had here is this run up. It's just more than a 50% at the moment, but round about 50%. We're now getting to levels of support. Maybe we can see that run up. But look at this. We've on the daily. Oops, reset that. Lost to 50, lost to 20, lost to 10, just lost to 200. This is not a great place to be. Yes, we've got this fib level here, not the strongest, but the 236, which is marrying in with this price action here. Maybe that's our saving grace for a bounce. The other thing you could argue, which I tried to vaguely draw out before, it's looking worse and worse. Before this was kind of clean and we were like, yeah, there's some sort of compression here, but now that compression's kind of disappearing. And yeah, I could go, all right, well, I'll move it here. I'll just move the gold base. So now it's like this. It's fine, guys. What are you talking about? It's still in that compression. Oops. You know, it's just here now. Don't worry about it. But the reality is, for me, it feels like we've actually lost through the bottom of that. And so whether or not, even if you keep it like that, because the top one doesn't necessarily matter, we keep it like this. I have some sort of channel. It does feel like we've lost the bottom of that today. And so that is an area of concern. Now, I was chatting with someone in Discord about what I'd do, and when we were sitting around about 450 a few days ago, and I actually think it was before I went to Prague, so it was over here, and I decided not to sell. And I kind of wonder whether or not that's going to come back to haunt me, because the other thing you got to remember is we are in a downtrend. You know, peak, low, peak, low, peak, low, peak. At the moment, a low. So my thought process is actually, I'll be honest with Tao, is if we start to work our way back up at some stage, but we don't clear 520, we have a rejection and we form another higher low, I will probably sell minimum 50% of my Tao off the basis of that. Get out, whether it's 460, 520, whatever, as long as it's not a new high, I will probably get out and just wait and reevaluate. And I will have a very itchy trigger finger to get back in. I may even start just laddering back in and just taking the opportunity that I managed to get out there. And that feels to me relatively good, because we need a change in narrative. We are in a downtrend, okay? So we need something to shift that. And for me, to break that, you know, we need to form, you know, a higher high and then a higher low. Then we've broken it. And until we've done that, it kind of feels like that's not really where we're sitting. So I'm sitting on it. I'm sitting with my hands at the moment. It's fine. I've got that USDT that if it drops, I will be buying some Tau just to sort of help with the overall entry position. But if I do get an opportunity to make a side step, then I think certainly on Tau, that's the play that I would make. I'm not sure there's too much to say for the rest of that. Polkadot, so yeah, I sold yesterday. It's about 663, I think it went out average, but it kind of rejected off this. It just felt like an ideal opportunity. At the moment, I'm eyeing this level here. So why that? If we just throw a fib up, I'm trying to be quick because I did these last week. With a 618, my golden level is at 566. I get down to there. So for everyone I sold, you know, it's $1 less buying them back in. So that's going to be a decent uplift. There's price history, you know, here, and I can keep on going. It's a good level. Not saying it might not go lower, but this is just me trying to get a side step, a bit more dot than just stake and reward. So that's kind of the level I'm looking at for Polkadot. But it's not looking great at the moment, I'll be honest. The way this one closes, all these beforehand have just been spikes to there, not closed at the level they're currently at. So not ideal. Ethereum, similar. We talked about this a few weeks ago, and I think people thought I was joking, but that 2,500 level just feels like the right level at the moment. What I will say though is 2,800, especially with the 200 EMA, potentially got some opportunity to catch it there. Maybe we see some sort of reaction, but you know, people loving Ethereum at 4,000, not necessarily so much now. And this all turned around on their upgrade. But we have seen, I didn't bother even bringing up the article, the irony being record level lows in Ethereum transaction fee. We're talking like 30 cents a transaction at the moment. So it is interesting, and that's where that's gone to. We're down to 59,650 it got to at one stage. So yeah, we're retesting that. Glimmer, yeah, not looking good. I've already got rid of 50% way back up here, but I'm going to keep the other 50. Near's not had a good day today, but it has bucked the trend with everything else. It has done well just climbing up. It's had a big drop today, 10% plus. Still within the 50 EMA cloud, but I'm not as worried with near at the moment. Rose, I'm desperately on a support level. We lose that. 7 cents, here we come. I think it's a 48-hour unlock period for that. I'd have to have a look into that, but I may consider unstaking. If I can get it out quick, maybe unstake and remove it. Render, again, done better than most, but we're now starting to see it. I mean, I'll bring up a Solana. It's not one I usually follow. We're now starting to see with such a fast-paced move upwards that, you know what, the pullbacks are pretty steep. The 200 has acted really nicely off this one recently, so bit of a room to get down to that sort of like, 630, 640 level, maybe see some sort of reaction there. And then again, very crude fib level. This would suggest maybe down to 540. It'd be interesting to see how that reacts first then, but maybe 540. I'm not going to sell any, but if you get down to 540, I will buy some more. I sold my FET, my PIF, and my Entangled a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just looking for buy levels. Entangled, I sold at like 125. I made a killing loss on that one myself. But look at it. It is just bleeding. I mean, that's because hype of a new launch. And trust me, I was a noob. I bought some right up here. I got some on launch day, and I bought some up here, and then, ended up selling. I don't know where it was, like around here. It was not a particularly great trade for me. But I just got caught with the hype. I did say I'd have a look at Sol, just because those of you that like Sol had a hell of a correction. So you think where Sol was in meme coin season, 220, and we're now 120, battling that again. And it's just, this not that long ago was at $18, okay? It's still a 10x from October, but these levels, they weren't there for long. I mean, we did have some period of waiting around about the 100, so there's a decent amount that we can react off there. But you lose those, and we may start to collect them quite quickly. However, with that amount of level, with the 200 EMA, and where I think Bitcoin's probably going to go, then I've nailed my colors to the mast and say we should be all right. Maybe we get down as low as 80, the bottom of this level. It's still a decent correction from where it sits. And then for those of you in CAS, we're right on this level, aren't we? 10 cents, we lose that, and that's kind of like Bitcoin. There's just not much between 10 cents and 5 cents. So yeah, just be careful there. Okay, I think that's probably about where I am with that. I appreciate I've rushed through quite a lot of that, and I apologize for that. The painkillers is wearing off. We have lost that level of 59,634. We're now at 59,300 or just under. So Bitcoin is making that move down. We're as low as we have been since 28th of Feb. It's funny how it feels completely different this side of it. But yeah, so everyone, hopefully that at least gives you some sort of idea of where price is, why price is doing what it's doing, and where we may go to. 59,000 looks like that vector candle 50% is going to be hit as we speak. So maybe we are looking in around the 57s. As I said, I'm not really particularly doing too much. I'm just watching it, and then we will go from there. I think I can hear my son crying, so I'm definitely gonna end it. Just gonna make sure that he's okay. If you've got any questions, please hit me up in the Discord, and I will answer them in much more thorough detail. Thanks for the time. I know it's been a bit of a short one tonight. I'll speak to you all on Thursday afternoon, where we've got a trading pub, a genuine one, back again. Be interesting to see what everyone else's views are on that. But other than that, thanks a lot for tuning in, and I shall speak to you all soon. Cheers now.